Welcome back, everybody. This is To Your Greatness with Dawn Mathis, and I am yours truly, Dawn Mathis, the owner of Institute LifeWorks. We have another guest today. We have great guests every time, but I am very much looking forward to speaking with Margaret Ghielmetti because I have been reading her book, Bravish, which I love, and I kind of relate to. I feel like a kindred spirit of where she was when she wrote this book. It's something that I just very much relate to. So that being said, I wanted to share with you a quote that's in the first part of her book, which is one of my favorite quotes, and it's from Mark Twain. And it says this: 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the things that you did do. So throw off the bow lines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sail, explore, dream, and discover. So I want to welcome Margaret Ghielmetti, the author of Bravish. Welcome.
Thanks, Dawn. I really appreciate you having me on, and I love what you're bringing to the world. I'm a big fan of all the things that you're committed to in terms of transformation and soul's purpose and higher calling. So I'm really grateful to be on To Your Greatness with you.
Thank you so much. You know, I have a little memoir summary of your book, a plug, if you will, and I love this. If I is it all right if I just read that to our listeners?
Oh, I'd be grateful. Thanks.
Okay. An intrepid traveler sets off at the age of 40 to live the expatriate dream overseas, only to discover that she has no idea how to even live her own life. Part travelogue and part transformation tale, Ghielmetti's memoir, narrated with humor and warmth, I agree, proves that it's never too late to reconnect with our authentic selves if we dare to put our own lives first at last. I love that. I love that. So Margaret, you're an artist, you're a performer, and you're the author of Bravish. I love that title because I use the ish word. I'll be there at 11-ish. So I love that. And it's a memoir of a recovering perfectionist. You've lived on 4 continents and you've visited nearly 50 countries. And you're helping now others to find their fullest creative expression. And you do that through your own coaching, presenting or teaching wherever you're needed. I love that. And I see when I went on your website, I see that you've been in several coffee shops and places around, especially lately, Chicago. Is that right?
Yes, I definitely, one of the things, and thank you so much, Dawn, for calling out all the kind of different facets of my creative expression. But yes, Chicago is a really robust place for live lit storytelling. So yes,
Mm.
I tell stories wherever it's welcome, including the Moth, which is something a lot of folks know from public radio. So yeah, wherever stories are being told, that's where you'll find me.
That's amazing. I just love that. One of the things I wanted to ask you about in your book, and I was frantically looking for it and couldn't find it, but I think you called it a trailing spouse or something like that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, how I mean, it's like an English teacher talking about a dangling modifier. What? So trailing spells almost sounds like, almost sounds belittling in a way. Does it not to you, or did it to you at the time?
Oh, yes, very much so. That is one of my least favorite terms from the international sort of relocation world. And I don't think it's used anymore. I think you're right. They kind of got the fact that this feels belittling to the person following another person's career. But that was at the beginning of my book, what I was. I had quit my professional life to follow my husband's career moving around the world, which is what we've done for most of our marriage. And at the time, that was considered the trailing spouse. So I gave up not only my career, but really my professional identity. And
Yeah.
that's where the trouble began.
Yes, and I could see that. I could actually feel the pain off the pages, if you will,
Mm.
when I was when I was reading it, and that you had set a lot of rules for yourself, or kept a lot of rules and old stories about yourself, which, we as women, we do that. One of the things that I love to do is, okay, this is an old story. How can we rewrite this? Because it's never too late. But you talked about something called the handbook or something. Was that a real book?
It's not a real book, but it might as well have been. That was when I started writing the memoir. I initially thought it was going to be another solo show because I love doing solo shows about my travel misadventures. And as I wrote, it became clear to me it was not only my literal journey around the world, it was my emotional journey to
Mm,
just what you're saying, to start to let go of some of the old stories that have held me back. I just was re-listening to your paradigm busting episode about
mm,
breaking away from limiting beliefs. And that's what the journey, it became clear to me that's what I was writing. And as I was trying to braid these two narratives together, I had one of those amazing, as an artist, moments of grace where in the middle of the night I sat up and said, oh, wait a minute, this feels like I grew up with a family handbook. So it's not a literal handbook, it's a metaphorical handbook, but I believe that we all received one. I
yes.
kind of thought everyone got the same one I did, but they didn't. So it's been interesting to me to see what handbooks people believe that they received. But mine had things like, if you want it done right, do it yourself.
Oh
And
yeah.
over the years, as a oh yeah, thank you for getting me. I had
I
added,
got you. Totally
preferably,
got
you got me, okay. Preferably yesterday without any help. Always put others first. And all of these things are really lovely when they're in balance. But in my sort of loss of identity, was clinging to these old rules and roles to excess. So as opposed to just being thoughtful, I was making sure I was living everyone else's life for them because I didn't know what I was doing in mine, that kind of
you.
thing. So rules and roles that can be really good, virtuous things, but taken to excess are really limiting beliefs, to use your words.
Yeah. It's, and we have them to conquer those limiting beliefs. I'm reading a book right now by Jim Quick. That's his real name. Quik. Excuse me, Kwik. Who is a
Hmm.
had a head injury as a child, and so his identity and his story and his limiting belief was that he was the boy with the broken brain, because that's what teachers told him.
Mm. Oh
And one of
gosh.
the,
Oh.
and I just read this yesterday, in his book that I'm reading, and I love this saying, and hopefully it'll help you or someone you know. He said, "If we fight for our limitations, we get to keep them."
Mm.
So
Oh
if
my
we
gosh.
continue to tell ourselves, no, no, someone tells you, wow, you're great, you're wonderful, you've got it all together, and you're like, no, that can't possibly ever be me. Well, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
If you fight
So
for
true.
those, you get to keep them.
Mm. So
So,
true.
yeah. So, I'm kind of early on in your book. I'm reading a few books at the same time. So don't let me call you Jim or Thomas Edison or things like that. Um, um, so I'm fairly early on in your book. I think I'm through the first couple of weeks when you moved to Cairo, and you had a friend who came, and so you were trying to go see sites that you had not seen while you were also playing hostess and still trying to fit in writing your book. And I remember there was a story, you had traveled for, I don't know, hours to this place and seen all these great things. And there was a museum there that you wanted to see really, really badly. And this person, I'm sorry, gracelessly said that no, she wasn't interested and didn't really want to do it. And you, of course, being the pleaser that you were and the perfectionist that you were at the time, acquiesced.
Hmm. I
And I
did.
remember thinking how that must have just broken your soul at the time and your
Mm.
heart.
That's a really, I appreciate that you see the gravity of that, because it was not so much not seeing the museum, which it does really irritate me that I didn't put my foot down. And I would do differently now, but it's part of my journey of learning to, as you say, come from my extreme people pleasing, which gave me an extreme emotional payoff. You know, if I was the perfect hostess, the perfect expatriate, the perfect corporate spouse, I got a lot of emotional payoffs for that. And it kind of helped me to feel I knew who I was. And only once I started to let go of that in favor of a higher calling and my life was I able to let go of some of those, really those rewards. But at the time, yes, it was crushing because I wasn't honest with her. I told her I wanted to go, but I didn't stamp my little feet. I didn't say, for heaven's sake, we're right there. You know, I would do it differently now. And that was true for everything in my life. So even my closest friends who have read the book and said, oh my gosh, if we had known that in fact it was so hard for you to be overseas alone, we would have been there for you. We would have helped you. And now I know that. I just did not know at the time to ask for help,
Mm,
to be honest, to accept help. So these
yeah.
are all things that our narrator, me, had to learn along the way to stand up for myself and be responsible for my own choices.
So, I don't want to blow the book wide open, but I'm not at the part where the epiphany happens. What happened to encourage you or to make the shift for you where you said, you know what? Damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead. I have things I want to do. I'm important as well, and I am not going to take all my fulfillment from what other people say about me, but for what I do for myself. How did that come about? Because I'm not there in the book, and I was just
Mm,
curious. If you wanted to share something along those lines about your epiphany, and how did you change your story?
mm. That's a great question. Well, I will say it was cumulative. So it wasn't exactly an overnight kind of thing, but I do
I could
start to,
tell.
yeah, I do start to rely on what I call a higher power at some point. And so I do start to realize that help is available to me in a higher form. And then
Mm,
I really start to pray to also ask for help from humans and to be
mm,
a human being myself and to recognize my own vulnerability. And that includes saying sometimes, no, I'm not going to be the perfect this or that. I'm going to start to ask for what I want, which maybe sounds counterintuitive, but it really came to me only as I developed a sense of, oh, I get to be like everyone else. I get to not be superhuman, take off the cape, take off the suit of armor, take off the halo, and start to see, oh gosh, what do I want to do with my life? As you say, you know, the life we'd love to live. Start to
mhm,
do that. It helps that I was getting older. I think that the clock ticking and the hair getting silver has put a little fire under my feet. I don't think that's a bad thing. I
absolutely.
do want to be living the life I feel I'm put here to live. And it was cumulative. And then I had some things which kind of poked me like a sharp stick. So once we moved to northern Thailand, long story, but someone was telling me what to do. And that included I was supposed to, as the wife of the general manager of this luxury hotel, I was supposed to be having cocktail parties in our home every night. And I'm a very social person, but I'm also an introvert in terms of how I recharge. And I thought, oh, I cannot, no, I can, that's just, I can't, no. And I remember saying no to her and her fighting me on it. And I was like, no, no. And it sounds like such a small thing, but it was the very beginning of me taking back me. Just
Yeah.
saying, oh, wait, my genuine self, wait, I want to be my genuine self. I want that for everyone else in the world. I want that for myself. And so it was a
Mm.
series of challenges, really, that life throws at us to say, huh, how are you feeling about that today? Are you going to stick up for yourself? And slowly but surely, I started to realize people who cared about me actually wanted me to be me.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember reading about a couple of your friends that you reached out to, especially when that really nice guy came over with wine and wanted to have a wine party with you and make you feel less lonely.
Oh,
Like,
God. Oh, Lord.
oh my gosh. And she was like, what?
What?
So sometimes we need people in our lives, we all do, to give us kind of a reality check. Not just about what were you thinking, but also, you're deserving, and
Mm,
you're doing things for everyone else, and now it's time for you to treat yourself like
mm.
you do everyone else. Someone said yesterday, if we just treated other people like we treat our pets, the world would be a beautiful place.
Yes, so true. So
So,
true.
and I
And
love
to,
that you had cats, by the way.
yeah. And if we treated ourselves the way we treat our friends, the world would be a better place too. So I'm always saying that to other people. And as you say, it's really nice when someone mirrors that back to us.
Yeah,
Try to be a little kinder, try to be a little gentler. I
yeah.
just want to be a human being. Uh, so it's certainly been a journey.
Yeah, I just, I love the double entendre of travel and unique and exotic places and your inner journey paralleling your physical journey. I just
Mm.
love just,
Thank you. I'm really grateful that my writing coach saw that before I did, and she helped me to braid these two stories together. I will admit, as you know, I've wanted to write a book since I was a little girl, and it took me several decades, but that's okay. I got it done. But I really was so grateful for the help of someone else who she kept saying to me, I'm in the treetops, you're in the forest.
right.
Just keep going, just keep going. So, as you say, it's so helpful when we have the people in our lives who can give us some perspective on
Absolutely.
ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that can see you in the picture and they're outside the frame. It is easier for them to see. However, I would have read your little book that you started to write as a kid about the horses and training wild horses in Wisconsin, and that you ate apples, and I would have told it wouldn't have mattered to me what time of year it was. It's kind of like watching Hallmark. It's just like it's Hallmark.
I so appreciate that, Dawn. I'm
Oh,
going to recreate that book.
oh, please do. Please recreate it, because you know what? Only the people who have no business reading the book are going to tear it apart. Not people like me.
Amen.
I'd be like, oh, I love it. Oh, training wild horses in Wisconsin. Yeah, I thought that was very sweet, very sweet. So what are you doing now? I mean, so you're trying to write this book, struggling to write this book, struggling to find yourself and stand for yourself while you're supporting your husband, not as a trailing spouse, but the wind beneath his wings, if you ask my opinion. Um, how Tell us how you kind of where are you now? The book got written. This is the book.
This is
This
the
is the
book.
book you were trying to write, but you had other intentions or another plot maybe for the storyline.
Yes,
And
I certainly didn't know it was going to be a memoir until I started writing it. And, again, luckily, getting older means, hey, there's a life. You can write about a life. So I had always thought I would write a novel. Thank you for referencing my wild horse taming in Wisconsin novel. But then
Absolutely.
this one really occurred to me only in the writing. So it's not the same book that I thought, but it is a book. And I will say, as readers get deeper into the book and see more and more challenges to the narrator, will our narrator on her hero or heroine's journey, will she stand up for herself? Will she take some ground? Will she claw her way past her own self-limiting beliefs? Um,
Mm-hmm.
it also really became very clear to me that they were my beliefs. As you say, had been reinforcing a lot of self-limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes very, very clear. I've been married to Patrick for almost 30 years. There's a point at which, somewhat later in the book, where it occurs to me, oh, he doesn't want me to be doing anything that doesn't serve me. It was always me assuming, not him, but assuming that my role as corporate spouse demanded this, or my role as perfect daughter demanded this, or my, no, I was putting all of that on myself, and it was up to me to change. And at a certain point, Patrick and I do mottos every January 1st, not resolutions, but we pick a phrase. And for a
Oh,
long
well.
time, when I was caring for my parents at the end of their life, I was be here now, be here now, be here now. That was several years because that's how I got through. And at a certain point, Patrick said to me, no, Margaret, this year it is for you, me first, meaning Margaret first, which was one of the kindest things a very kind person has ever done for me. And I did
Mm.
laugh and say, you do know what that means for you, right? And he laughed and said, yeah, I mean, I know I'm going to regret this for a people pleaser, but he's absolutely been a steadfast, I want you to do your life's purpose.
Mm.
And it really kind of occurred to me, oh gosh, I've really had this wrong. It's one of these something happened and what I made it mean situations where, oh wow, I thought I was following some rules, but I don't, those aren't rules being imposed on me. Let me grow into a different way of living.
Yeah, and something you just said about taking care of your folks. I'm sorry that they're gone because
Thank you.
um, it seemed when you talked about your parents, I could kind of relate to it a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, where was I going with that? Hang on, just having a mental cul-de-sac. Um, it seemed that some of the rules in your handbook may have come from your mom and from you also noticing um, that your parents were not happy together.
Hmm.
That's how it seemed to me, at least uh, not in a very gregarious, fun-loving. I can tell dad loves it when mom's home, and they can't keep their hands off each other in the kitchen, and they make meals together. There was none of that going on, and I could tell that there was a part of you that was so sensitive to that as a little girl, that you wanted to make things better. And it seemed to me that sometimes that's how it starts for us as women. We want everyone to feel happy and fulfilled, and you were that for your dad. It seemed to me that you just.
Absolutely. That I definitely took on that role. And I would say my parents were very, very happy together. But you're right, by the time I'm the youngest child, by the time I came along, they'd been married a long time. I think we kids, we wore them out. We wore them out. And, they
Yeah.
also fell into some roles that I think my parents' generation, there wasn't a lot of going to therapy and going to couples work and a lot of the personal growth work that a lot of people I love do.
Right.
And so my parents kind of their dance was my mom could get cold and my dad could get sad. And so you're right. I see that sort of imago thing playing out with my husband too, sometimes where he'll go to sad dad, I will go to cold mom. So you're right. There is that childhood chasing, trying to make things better. And I definitely was always trying to cheer up my dad, who was a super lovely guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as I got older, I really did a lot of work in bringing my relationship with my parents into adulthood But you're right, from a childhood level, the people pleaser grows
Mm.
out of trying to make everybody else well. So for
Yeah.
sure, that was sort of the origin story of my people pleasing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely very well said. Yeah. So I noticed that, and I think, yeah, you were the youngest. Were you the only girl?
Yes, I'm the only girl.
And the next oldest was 11 or 17 when you were 7 years old. I had some notes that I had written. And
The
uh,
eldest brother is 10 years older. So, and my brothers are really stand-up guys. They are not the traditional typical guys. So
yeah,
I loved growing up with three older brothers. But it's true, I definitely did a lot of chasing the way I feel it when I still can slip into that people pleasing. That's my defense mechanism. That's where I
yeah,
go if I need comfort is, oh, I know how to feel good is I'll make everyone else feel good first. So I can still feel it, it
yeah,
flitters in and I'm like, oh, thanks for visiting. Uh,
yeah,
right. I think these things are pretty deeply wired. I try to, as you say, though, Dawn, not dig that groove even deeper
right,
at
right,
this age.
right. No, I think it's great. So, for those women that are listening, where we have, and I know it's not just you and I, um, if people are honest with themselves, what so women that are struggling with this today, this, their whole identity is caught up in someone noticing that they can make everybody else feel welcome and great, and that's what we can feed off of sometimes, is what people say nicely about us. What would you tell people? How would you tell people to interrupt that? What would be the pattern interrupt that you would share with women today?
Mm, that's a fantastic question. And ooh, that's a good one. I really am a big believer in trying to look at what is our higher calling, because I really
Mhm.
do think we get this one life.
Yeah.
Um, I like to think of what's going to be on my tombstone.
Mm.
And I oftentimes have two tombstones in my mind. One of them is be, and one of them is do. Since I'm a really compulsive doer, that was also a
Mm.
value in our house. So sometimes I'll be really heavily skewed on oh, I'm doing a lot of stuff.
Mm.
But am I doing what I want? I mean, do I want my doing tombstone to say, got all the chores done?
Yeah. Checked all the boxes. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get it, and I love that you said that. What will be on our epitaph or our tombstone? How would we like to be remembered? Um, yeah, that's a big question, and I think, as you know, I think you and I are around the same age. So I would say, when we're facing mortality, not just our own, but our parents, people around us, friends,
Hmm.
even celebrities that are larger than life. A lot of them have gone in the past couple years. I mean, all that. Um, I do think that facing that mortality can be very sobering, but it, like you said, it can hold your feet to the fire and make you realize, okay, it's now time to live with passion and do the things I was called to do. And it's not just anticipating someone else's wants, needs, and desires at the expense of my own.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely is my wish for people, and that's why I wrote this book. I'm hoping to inspire other people to live their own life, as you read off. If people are willing to dare to let go of these old stories, because I do understand how pervasive they are. I did add questions in the back of the book to try to help people get a
Oh.
little bit unstuck. What rules were in your family handbook. Heartbreakingly enough, I have one friend who the only rule in her family handbook was silence.
Ugh.
And that pretty much kills me every time I say it. And I have another friend who said, well, you were lucky, your parents love you. I didn't get a family handbook. And I said, well, that's your family handbook. The feeling that you weren't loved enough to even get a handbook. So I think we all have them. And I'm also ask people, what dreams have you postponed? And is it
Mm,
time? Where have you given up your own voice? And I really think it's important in my way of thinking, what payoffs am I willing to let go of in order to live my life? Because I don't think it's not free. It's not free. I have had to give up a lot of stuff that, I really have had to give up the halo. I've had to give up people saying, oh, you're a saint. Oh, you're a this. I don't want to be a saint. I want to be doing my life. But I've,
yeah.
I've had to give up a fair amount of emotional payoffs. And to me, that's been key.
Yeah.
And I also really, really invite all of us to consider that everything we do is a choice, because I think we can also get roped into the feeling, oh, I have to do something. And there is literally nothing that we have to do, not even breathe.
Right.
We Everything's a choice, because I want people to take their personal power to make their choices to live their life. And I mean, I still want to be in relationship with the people I'm in relationship with. I'm not gonna
Sure.
like, oh, you go to heck. But yeah, the clock is ticking.
Yeah. Right. Right. It is. It is. And I love what you said about the halo and trading it in. I would say you traded in your halo for your own hallelujah.
Wow, that's a good one.
Oh, you just inspired me. I just came up with it just now. It might even be the title of this podcast.
I love it. All right, I'm writing that down. Okay,
From
that's a
halo
fantastic title.
to my own hallelujah.
Love
So
it.
yeah, well, and yeah, so gosh, this is wonderful, Margaret. I would love to reach out to you outside of the podcast, if I may have your permission to do that, and just I will continue to read your book. I'm kind of a slow reader, but this book I'm reading by Jim Quick has a chapter on speed reading. I just haven't gotten there yet.
That's funny.
It's true. It's a true story. But yes, I just love your book and I can so relate to it. And it just reminds me to remind myself not that I can change my stories to stories that I would love to have
Mm.
be a reflection of how I lived my life.
I think
So,
that's beautiful, because you're giving that gift to other people, right? So
yeah,
let's
thank you.
let's give it to ourselves. I'd also like to say, Dawn, first of all, of course, I welcome an ongoing conversation with you. And also, for any of your listeners, I love to help people get their stories out into the world. If I can ever be of assistance, I believe everyone's voice needs to be heard, and I know it can be daunting. So people are welcome to reach out to me, and on my website, they can kind of see what I'm about. But I
Mhm.
really I want people to tell their stories. I want them to live their lives. So I really
Absolutely.
appreciate you including me today.
Oh, absolutely. And so the way you spell her name, Margaret, I think you guys can figure out, but I'll spell that anyway. Margaret. And it's Margaret at margaretghielmetti.com. Let me spell the last name. It's Ghielmetti. You could probably, I think you can order her book on her website if I'm remembering right. Bravish. So it's the word brave, and then in parentheses is ish. Bravish is her book. She's got a beautiful website. I know she can help any of you out there. I'm just, yeah, especially you traveling people that want a traveling book while you learn about your inner selves. It makes it a little less scary, I think, to read it in a travel log format. It's very well written. It makes me want to go to the places that she went to and that she
Oh,
lived with her
yeah.
husband,
Call me
Patrick.
about that too. Call me about that too.
Oh
People
yeah.
are welcome to pose travel questions to me. I love those too.
Great. All right. All right. Well, gosh, Margaret, thank you. Thank you so much. And I will continue to read your book. And now that I have a face with the name, it will be all that much more special to continue reading this book that you wrote so eloquently. So, is there anything else, any last messages you would like to leave with our listeners, Margaret?
Well, besides again thanking you, Dawn, I really, in my letter to my younger self, it would be ask for help, accept help. And
Mm,
people like you are out there for people to access, and it's that would be my hope for anyone. Ask for help, accept help, and live your own life.
very well said. Well, Margaret, thank you so much.
Thank
Margaret
you, Dawn.
Ghielmetti, everybody, author of Bravish. Go to her website, check her out. We will have all her information in our show notes as well. All right, we're going to leave you now, everybody. Thanks for listening. This is To Your Greatness with Dawn Mathis. Stay safe, be well, and show someone you love them. And also love yourself, too. Take care, everybody. See you next time.